Hello. So I'm an inventor and I want to talk to you about something today. There's an industry that's growing 1,789%. It's grown that much since 2017. It grew right through the pandemic and it's not slowing down. And there's just huge demand. And I have a product to help meet this demand. I'm going to show you this product. And the first thing you're going to think is that looks too simple. And this is a part. So right here, this is a part of a machine that I'm making. And without going into a lot of details, this has two tubes. They're welded together. So there's two different channels here. And this is a revolutionary design change. I put a patent on it. Here's an example. So right here, this is my patent. And if you notice, it's very simple. These two little squiggly wires here, this is this part right here, where there's two tubes going together. So there's two channels for fluids going in here. But compared to the existing competition, if you notice, you look at right here, there's a lot of parts in here. So you don't need to understand what all this stuff is, but just basically get that this is a simplification. With simplification, you get cost reductions. You get to be manufacturing costs go way down. Okay, so this little simple part has given me about 35 improvements, advancements over what's being done by making it so much more cost effective is one, but there's actually improvements even though it's more cost effective. Okay, so we should get into what this is, but just keep in mind it's a simplification, and means I threw out parts, got rid of unnecessary parts. Okay, so this is in the area of energy storage. Energy storage is most people, they think of energy storage, they think of a battery. Like this thing right here, okay? So it's called storage because basically you use energy, use electricity, you charge this battery up. Then you put it in your flashlight, and later on, could be a year later, it stores it, but a year later you go out and turn on your flashlight and on it comes. So that energy was stored in the battery. Everyone thinks of energy storage like that, okay? And they're right, this is one form of energy storage. This is electric chemical energy storage. It's a chemical in here that they use. All right. So there's another kind of energy storage. There's actually several kinds, but let's just stick with the ones that we're going to learn about today. Mine's called thermal energy storage. So if you look in here, you take energy, you put this in your refrigerator, you use electricity, and it makes this nice solid cold block of ice. So then you want to go on a picnic and you throw it in your cooler, and basically you take it on a picnic, and because you take it on a picnic, it keeps your food cold later, but you're not using energy. You're stored the energy from when you used it before. This is called thermal energy storage, thermal meaning heat. So this is called cold thermal energy storage. So most of you have a hot water heater that heats up the water so that you have enough when you want to take a shower. That's hot thermal energy storage. So today we're going to talk about cold thermal energy storage, although this system I'm doing makes both. It can be used for hot and cold thermal energy storage. So here's an example. And it can be done on large scale. So this is a product made by Train. See this guy right here? See these huge tanks? Okay, notice what they do here is they do the same thing. They use electricity to make these tanks full of ice, and then later on they use the ice to cool the building. So why, these things, if you look at it, you can see that this isn't cheap. This is cost, there's some money that was paid out here to put these things in. So why did they do that? What's the economic advantage of making all this ice and then using the ice to later cool the building. So there's got to be something. All right, so let's take a look at the rates. We have high and low rates. So they do that because when the rates are low, they make the ice, and when the rates are high, they use the ice to cool the building and they turn off the electricity. So this is where I live. From 12 o'clock at night to 3 in the afternoon, it's 28 cents per kilowatt hour. Kilowatt hour is a measure of how much electricity you use. Okay? But then from 4 to 7, it goes up to 59 cents, more than double in price. So if you had that system, you would make your ice during this time using the cheap electricity. You turn your air conditioner off and utilize your ice to cool your house or your building during this time. So you can buy electricity, and it makes enough sense that, believe it or not, this system can possibly have a 2 to 3 year payback. So your energy, the amount of money you save, actually makes sense. So that's energy storage that's cost effective, pays for itself. All right, so this right here, this is retail rates. In other words, this is what the consumer pays for electricity. All right, so let's see what's going on. Why is the utility company willing to have you pay for half price here and double price here? Why are they doing that? Okay, well, one, they're trying to encourage you to use more electricity here and less electricity over here, and here's why. Let's take a look. This is wholesale rates. This blue line right here is wholesale. Okay, this is in megawatt hours, so millions of watts. So cruising along here at about $55 a megawatt hour, and then right around morning time, it goes, woo, plummets more, plummets below zero. So on this particular day, April 23rd, 2023, that basically it went into the negative range. So if you're in the business of selling electricity wholesale, you're generating electricity and you want to sell it, right now you can't sell. You not only can't sell it, if you produce it, you have to pay for producing it. So this goes on all day. It's in a negative range. And then right around 3, 4 o'clock, and then it shoots back up here to higher than it ever was before, to $85 a megawatt hour. So it goes from negative to straight up. And then it goes back down, and then at nighttime again, it's over here. See, this is the time of the day, 12 o'clock at night, 6 a.m., 12 in the afternoon, 6 p.m., and then 12 o'clock. So what is causing that? Okay, so look at this graph. See this line right here? This is solar production. Goes up here, and the solar production, these solar panels only produce when the sun's out. So look what happens when the sun's out. They're producing. The sun's going down lower in the sky. It's not dark yet, but as soon as the sun goes lower, those panels don't really produce much. So production falls off and goes back down to zero again. So when this goes up, there's too much electricity. This is just a basic lesson, an example of supply and demand. Yeah, look, too much electricity, price plummets. Not enough electricity, price goes off the graph, goes back up again. You know what? This is interesting. You see these two lines right here? And this one here? This is the actual amount that is being produced, but they call this curtailment. That means they chop it off. Curtailment's when you cut off something before it's fully done. They basically wasting this electricity in here and throwing it away. They just don't know what to do with all of it, and they still are going into negative rates. Of course, when you're in negative rates, you got to get rid of this electricity. You don't need it. You don't want it. You got to get rid of it. You got to take it away like it's junk. Anyway, so that's what happens. This is what's happening here. Here's another example. This is India. Take a look here. This is a typical Indian day in India, the country. So this is the use. See, at 4 o'clock, it falls very low. During the morning time, it starts shooting up. People go to the office, offices, factories are using electricity, and then boom, it shoots way up here. This is where people go home and they're turning their air conditioners on. So the evening time in India is the high time when they want to use those air conditioners. Then it falls back down. Okay. Over here, this is my little figure of a power plant. So you got a power plant, a power plant, a power plant, all the way up to here. So you have to have these power plants in order to meet this demand when it shoots up to here. And you have an extra one because, what if one day it climbs up to here? So you have to have all these extra power plants. Okay? And the worst part is this is very inefficient. If you owned 100 apartments, basically you got a couple of those apartments that they're there and you're not able to rent them. They're jarring because you have to meet the demand. If someone comes along, you have to be able to meet the demand. You can't just turn people away. The electric company, we expect when we turn electricity on, we expect it to come on. We don't go, well, it didn't have a vacancy today, not enough electricity. So no, it comes on. So you have to build these extra power plants, but this power plant has to be built. It's expensive, has to be maintained, has to do maintenance on it. And you only get to sell electricity for, it looks like about an hour a day. Up here, maybe an hour a day. You got to have this one built and maybe you'll never even use it. That is expensive. Okay? So here's a solution. Let's take a look here. If you have batteries, energy storage, you don't have to build these power plants. You can put them in, you can use batteries. So what you do here is use your batteries to provide these peaks here. So then you can avoid building these power plants. Of course, right over in here, this area here, you see this line across here? So you would even this out. So over here, you would use this extra electricity, you'd bring it up to this line and you use it to charge these batteries up. Right here, you'd be charging your batteries, and over here, you'd use your batteries, so then you even this out. So the big game is, can you get this energy storage, these batteries, for less than it costs to build these? That's the name of the game. And anyone that can do this can make a lot of money because you can bring the cost down for electricity and still make money for yourself if you can make energy storage in an inexpensive way. Let's go to this diagram right here. Here's India again. So it's worse than just a one-day thing. Look, they have to build power plants. This is an India graph. This is 3 days worth. Okay, you notice you got this peak sitting up here. So yeah, you have this power plant that's going to produce electricity and sell electricity for just this little bit of time up here. And the other days you don't even need it. So that's expensive. This is why electricity in India is supposed to really grow. The demand for electricity and how much it needs all at once is because they're adding a lot. India is becoming modern. They're adding people are getting more and more air conditioners, and it's growing. It says for space cooling and electric vehicle. So they're growing like crazy, and this is expensive. It hurts me when I think about these power plants just sitting there. That's expensive, inefficient. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on here. So here's another example of inefficient. This is Texas grid. See these ups and downs? Well, the solar is the lighter color, and the wind is this one, is the darker green. But you see all these ups and downs. You can't count on the solar or the wind, and so it's up and down and up and down and up and down, and it has to be stored, Or in this case, they're using natural gas to try to make up for it. But solar is coming down so cheap that it's starting to compete with natural gas, and but you have to store it. Solar, you can't think of, people think of solar, I have solar, so I have electricity. Well, if you only want electricity when the sun's up, then you have solar. Solar and wind don't work without storage. And California right now is trying its hardest to do it without storage. It's not working out. Okay. So let's take a look at this. So here's another graph. Okay, in this graph we show this is in California. So the graph during the day that it goes up, solar is being produced, and then it goes back down. So we have solar. This top line's what is needed. This is the demand. Okay, this is what we need. But because we've added this to here, now we only need this much. This is in 2016. So because this is doing this, it's causing this to dip. This is in 2016. Now watch this. This is just incredible what's been happening here. Okay, check this out. 2018. Okay, this line's dipping down further. Why? So there's more solar going in. The more solar going in, the more this line's going to dip. So let's take a look here. Now let's go on. Coming up to 2023. Okay, we've hit bottom. There's more solar going on that we have to throw away. Throw away. Yes, throw it away. Get rid of it. Remember right here, I said solar curtailment? Yeah. They're throwing it away. Okay? It's like a waste. They have to waste it. Too much. So, okay. Let's move on here. So, why do we have... Why? Where's all this extra electricity coming from? Well, let's take a look at an individual who bought solar. He put solar up on his house. So first of all, this blue line is how much electricity he personally needs himself, that he's going to use in his own home. See the blue line? Okay, that's what he uses. All right. Now, this red line is how much his solar panels produce every day. It goes up and it goes back down. So this is morning, this is midday, this is evening. This gray area is how much he needs to use. He needs, right here, he gets to use his own solar energy. See, he produces it, he uses it. It's called self-consumption. He produces it, he uses it. Here, he has to buy from the electric company. Why? Because the sun's not out, he's not producing. Here, he has to buy from the electric company because the sun's not out, okay? So look at all this extra solar. Look at that, okay? So this is what's getting fed back to the electric company, right here, okay? Extra, so you got one guy doing that. It's not a big deal. Okay, now let's take a look and see is how many people are doing that to the California utility companies. This map here shows how much solar installations are put in. For instance, North Dakota, ooh, they only have 41 installations. That's like almost nothing. I don't know who did that. Even if a solar company could even afford to be in business up there. Okay, here's Texas. They got 252,000. Florida, 198,000. Let's go look at California. 1,841,000 solar installations. So you got 1,841,000 solar installations, and they're doing this, producing extra electricity, sending it back to the utility companies. That's too much. Okay, so that's why we're literally flooding the grid. Okay, so let's see, this one right here. So here's that same graph, 2016. So this is what happened in 2016. So you see, okay, 2016. Now let's take a look and see what's happening since then. This one starts at 2015, 2016. This graph is called the California duck curve because it looks like a duck, quack, quack. So it goes up like this. Notice the peak time, this is how much is needed during the day. Notice peak time is in the evening again. Okay, but every year it's going down, 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 down. There's more and more solars going in, and less and less electricity is needed from the utility company because it's being overwhelmed. We're overwhelming the electric grid. The grid's all the wires that connect us. Okay, the utility companies, we're overwhelming it with too much electricity here, then it shoots up right here. Okay, so this thing is called the deepening. It's getting deeper, deeper, deeper. Sometimes this curve no longer looks like a duck. It's starting to look more like a valley, you know. It looks like it used to be more like a duck. Now it's becoming like a valley. Okay, so let's take a look here. So there you go. It's not a mystery. This is what's happening. That's why on April 23rd, 2023, we're just too much, and that's why rates went negative that day. They don't go negative every day, but they sure went negative that day. So this is why we have the 1,789% growth in storage, because there's so much of a strong demand for it. This is throughout the United States, so it's just growing, not just California. Look at this. And most of this has been this last, particularly since 2022. It didn't slow down in the pandemic. No way. Okay. Let's take a look here. Here's another outlook of solar. It's expected to grow. There's 2023. We're at about 100. And it's going to grow up, in gigawatts. It's going to be up close to 300. It's just going to keep growing. There's no shortage. Anyway, let's see. So here's another graph. This one's predicted by Bloomberg. It's just shooting up. So the blue right here is the U.S. China is doing it. China's definitely playing their part, and other countries are doing the same, but U.S. and China are really putting away the storage. They're really doing it. Okay, so let's take a look here. Back to this thing. This is got 2 channels, and there's, like I said, about 35 technological advances. It's deceiving, though. It looks like just a little piece of junk. In fact, that's one of the beauties about this thing is I threw something together in my garage using something like this, and it worked the first time. The design is so superior that it's highly tolerant of sloppy workmanship. I mean, my first one worked, okay? So that means it's not going to be, super difficult to make. The tolerances, everything doesn't have to be perfectly in spec. It's just going to work because the design is so superior. So let's take a look at this thing that I threw together in my garage with junk parts, off the shelf refrigeration parts. And let's take a look at it. You'll see that there's not really much to it. So it's the design. All right. Okay, so this is, first of all, this right here is the main motor that's called your compressor. That's the thing that you make work to make the ice or to cool your house. So let's take a look here. Thing isn't, I didn't want to spend this much time looking at the main motor. Let's see. So there, I welded a bunch of these together, and there's 2 different channels here. This is one's for cooling the house and one's for making the ice. So I welded these all together, and so there's just a bunch of these coils. This wasn't hard to make. And it's in this tank that's going to be in this water, and it makes ice. let's take a look here. Let's take a look. So this is right here where we're making the ice after it's all been welded together. So this is the first try. I put this thing together and bam, we're making ice. Actually, it's a little harder to melt the ice, believe it or not, than it is to make the ice. I was more concerned about melting it. But if you can see, this is not a very difficult system here. But you know what? Simplicity is the way to go. There's between 3 million and 6 million air conditioners being sold in the U.S. every year. And they're the simple ones. 95% of them are just the real simple ones. And that people don't want to pay for all that high-tech stuff. They actually just want their air conditioners to work. So I came up with a simple plan that will make ice. So making the ice was the easy part. Okay, let's take a look here. Now let's take. So this is a thermal imager. You look in, you can see the temperature of things. So right here, I'm measuring the temperature going in. It's going in about 75 degrees. And it goes into your furnace, comes up. This is where your air conditioner is typically at. But instead, I'm pumping a fluid through there that basically is, the fluid's being cooled by the ice, and then that fluid cools the air. That's like a vent in a house. And if you take a look in the thermal imager, we've got 62 degree air coming out there. Keep in mind, this is a miniature prototype. I didn't make it big. Take a look, and if you see, we've got 62 degree. It is basically working. It's cooling. That motor I showed you earlier, the compressor, is not running. It's simply using the ice, and most of the ice has been melted by now, actually. And so it's at a weak point, if anything. So, and if you look over here, I'm going to show you that there's the pipe going through there, the tube going through, and it goes down to a little pump that pumps this. This pump, this is a $20 pump, by the way, cheap. In fact, it's oversized from what I need. I had to slow it down because it's like too big. And it pumps fluid through here, which then changes from a liquid to a vapor in there. That's why you see both bubbles in there, okay? And it's changing, and then it sends it back up into the tube where it gets cooled again. So there's a lot of, let me put a stop on this one. There's a lot of financial incentives. It's almost incredible, the financial incentives here. There's a 35% tax credit, and solar's enjoyed that tax credit, and it has caused solar to boom in places like California, particularly where rates are high. California is about 3 times higher than your average rate for the rest of the United States. So it competes. People can put solar on the roof, and it's saving them money, and so that's why it's done well. But this 35% tax credit used to not be available until just recently, and it's good for another 10 years. It was introduced on the bill that was recently put through. But if anything, energy storage is probably going to grow faster than solar because it's behind. They've introduced solar, the price on solar plummeted, and they used to not be able to have energy storage unless you put it with solar. So energy storage didn't keep up. So we got the 35% tax credit. California Public Utilities Commission has just approved about 9 billion from now through 2031 that can be used for energy generation and energy storage. All right, and the California Energy Commission just threw in 48 million for new construction. For another financial assistant, like we went through before, is I found a way to produce this product inexpensively and get the results. We're talking about, compared to a battery, we're talking about half the price. The next thing is there's 3 to 6 million air conditioners every year that are sold, depending on the prosperity of the year. You know, when we have recessions, it slows down a little bit, but that are being sold. This replaces their air conditioner. So it's a heat pump, and it also has a tax credit. So this replaces their heating and air. So when they're due for replacement, they can put this in, and they'll get energy storage. The consumer, an incentive for the consumer is the time of use rates. I can heat and cool my house using off rates, half the price of my electricity. That's another financial incentive. The other one is there's 35 technological advantages that I've been able to find in doing this. I know it looks too simple, but I'm using a technology in there called thermal siphoning, where that it helps move the fluids through these tubes. So I basically redesigned it. So the next question is people always ask, well, you know, who are you going to sell this to? Who's going to be buying it? Who's our market? Where's our buyers? Okay, well, we have different groups of buyers. First of all, consumers, people like you and me live in houses. Okay, we want to take advantage of time of use rates. So we buy a new air conditioner, that's who's going to be buying it, particularly in states that have time of use rates. Most of the utility companies are going to time of use rates. Okay, so there's one group, and that will be sold by the heating and air conditioning companies. They're the ones that are in the homes, they have relationships with customers, and when it comes time to change that older air conditioner, they're going to be talking to them about options, and they will, these heating and air conditioner contractors, I know, I've been working in this field for 30 years. They love this idea of being able to tell the homeowner, say we put this system in and it's going to get a 30% tax credit. What if they sell it at, say, $30,000, and they're offering the homeowner a $9,000 off their taxes? This is a financial driver, and it's helped the solar industry. The next people that are going to use it, utilities. Basically, the utility companies, as you can see, have a financial incentive. All right, you saw the graph. They're hurting. They have this time when they can't sell their electricity. Well, during the time when the rates are going negative, they're basically, yeah, this time right here, when the rates are going negative right here, they can use this electricity to make ice or put it in batteries. They're out the roof. They just spent $400 million just on one project alone here in California for batteries. So that's another customer. Another customer is solar customers, something big. You know, I know I'm going on and on, but these things are not minor things. It's almost incredible. Any one of them would be enough of a factor to start investing in this. Solar industry in California got a problem. They didn't have this problem until April 15th, 2023. Okay? Basically, let's see if I can find it. Excess. So what's happening here? Remember this graph here? So before April 15th, 2023, this excess you could sell back at the retail rates. So if the rate then was 28 cents, you can get 28 cents credit for selling it back to your electric company. And then over here, you still have to buy it at 58 cents, but that's not as bad as what had just happened. What now happened when you put in solar, you're only gonna get 2 or 3 cents for this extra electricity right here. Yeah, that's all you're getting. And then you have to pay 58 cents. So you produce extra solar electricity, you don't want to sell it back. You want to keep it and use it over here. So in other words, from here to here, you want to put it on storage and then use it over here. So you need an inexpensive way to put this thing on storage from here to here. You need in an inexpensive way. So solar industry is dying for it. Literally, they may be dying for it. That what they did when they did that, there was no doubt that it was going to make it necessary to put energy storage in, and they wanted to do it. Of course, there was a big disagreement between the two groups, the utility companies and the solar industry. The solar industry say that's not good for the solar industry, and the solar industry says yes, but that's very green. You should be doing it. So there's that disagreement, and I'm not picking sides on it. What I am saying is that they will need to install storage now. Whereas before they weren't, and it was designed to do that, to make the solar industry have to install solar. Okay, so another one is off-grid. Okay, off-grid. You know, one of the things about investing is look at the future. What is going to happen? Okay, think about this. Say you get a piece of property which you can get for very cheap if it doesn't have electricity to it. It's because without utilities provided to that property, you get this property for cheap. And the other thing is say you want to put your home off the grid. I mean off the road. Who wants to put a nice house right up there, you know, by the freeway? You want to get back off the grid. Well, that's going to cost you some money. What if it cost you $100,000 to run an electric wire from the road or wherever the nearest electric transportation line is over to your house? Why would you do that? If you could put solar panels in and a backup generator, you could just basically go off the grid and not be roughing it, not live without the modern comforts. You can have your electricity at night, electricity during the day. If the sun doesn't shine, you've got your backup generator. And what if it cost you $150,000? Well, you say, well, you'll save $50,000. Of course you would do it. Well, think about it. If you run the wire, you still have to buy electricity. If you put your own solar panels in and your backup generator, you now don't buy electricity. You're self-sufficient. So you would recover the cost of that $50,000 in a short amount of time, especially if you have a nice large house. So off grid, or it may come that it's even less expensive. Depends how far off the grid you are to put in your own. So even if it's close, you're probably going to do it. If we had the technology we had 50 years ago, they wouldn't have put all these wires in running all over the countryside. They just wouldn't have. So here's another situation. And I know there's just a lot of information, but this is another one that's $1 billion difference, okay? So let's take a look at this picture here. This is just a quick diagram I put up. This is called, this electric wire is right here. It's moving across, okay? This is called your transmission. You're driving out in the country, you see those big wires going for miles and miles. You're down the freeway and you just like, think about it. Boy, that's got to be expensive. Okay, so if you put your generation plant and you put your batteries right here, then you can not have to build so many generation plants, because when the peak gets too big, you can just use your batteries. The advantage of having all your batteries right here, your energy storage right here, is you can save by putting them all in one place. You got an economy of scale by doing that. Then, so all your air conditioners, say you don't have storage over here, all your houses need air conditioner at once. You still have to send a large amount of electricity over there to meet the peak demand. Okay, so you need a big wire to do that, to make sure you have enough for peak demand. If you put your storage over here at the point of use, say it's ice storage. So what you can do, you can still, so you don't have this, you just have one generation plant, you can then just be running this compressor right here and using the ice and not running the compressor in these two houses. Then you alternate. Then you use the ice in this house and you use the compressor to make ice in that house and this house. So in other words, you alternate which house is making ice and two of them are using the ice. So now you don't have this huge surge. You ever notice we get power outages? When do they mostly go out? They mostly go out when we get these hot days because there's too many air conditioners on, and it's making it hard on the electric grid. It's on this transmission line. You try to send too much electricity across a wire, it literally burns it up. I know. I tried it before, and it melted the wire. Okay, I don't want to go into details, but yes, you cannot send too much electricity across a wire. It'll literally melt it. So they can't. So this is, it may not seem, you think about generation as the only point, but you have the advantage between other storages. And compared to a battery at a house, mine's under half the price, okay, to store the same amount of electricity. If you look at it, compare that to a battery. I basically have a bunch of tubes in the water, and I'm using water as a natural storage to freeze it into ice. And it is much less expensive. That's why in that first picture, they were using those big tanks of ice. It is cost effective. So anyway, I thought I'd give you what's going on. It's almost incredible, the economic factors, but the stats show it. The statistics show it. When you were reaching 1,700% growth, the demand is there, and it's all these economic factors that are pushing it. And now I have a simplified solution to even help along more. And we're green. We're helping out with the we're helping out either for the sake of making it more efficient for money wise, but we're also helping by making a green economy, and it's not cost prohibitive. So anyway, thank you. And there'll be more videos if you want to know more about those 35 advantages. As you can see, as an inventor, I love talking about them. It's just too much for the first video. So we will give you more information and you can see how all this works. Thank you.